My name's Don Schreiner. I am the fisheries specialist with Minnesota Sea Grant. So I have quite a bit of experience with the North Shore and the fisheries there, and I really have enjoyed working on it. We're here today to talk about climate change and the effects on fisheries. About the food web, there's different basically levels of productivity in the lake, and I'll start with like the algae and some of the single-celled plant organisms, which are then consumed by zooplankton and aquatic invertebrates, which are then consumed by what we call prey fish, which would be rainbow smelt, lake herring, cisco, which are basically the food for the major predator fish that we're most interested in as anglers, which would be lake trout, salmon, steelhead, those sorts of things. And here's where we really don't know yet how climate is going to affect this food web, because it is pretty complex now, and it becomes even more complex as the habitat and the temperatures change for these organisms. But what we would suspect is that as temperature increases, we've talked about growth rates of the predator fish increasing because they are warm-blooded, which means that cold-blooded, which means that they adapt to the temperature around them, so their metabolism increases, which means they need more food. So if the food isn't available, even if the temperature increases, we probably won't see increased growth. But then an entire food web will probably end up changing, and as we add complexity to that with invasive species coming in, that's where we see a lot of uncertainty. We really don't know how the system is going to respond to some of those changes. Okay, so one of the things we're seeing with climate change in the northern part of the state, in some of our lakes and our cold water fisheries, besides Lake Superior changes, is in some of our inland lakes. And what we're seeing is in these cold water lakes, we're seeing an increased temperature in the upper layers of the lake. And at the same time, we're seeing reduced oxygen in the lower levels. So what happens is that these cold water fish during the summertime get squeezed, and I call it kind of a sandwich effect, into a thermal zone that they can tolerate, and at an oxygen level they can tolerate. But what we're seeing is that zone is getting smaller and smaller over time, and in some cases we're actually seeing die-offs. And what this is affecting is mostly lake trout, lake herring or cisco, and lake whitefish. And we're seeing that in some of our Cook County and Lake County lakes, St. Louis County, in the northern part of those counties. We're also seeing it in some of the deep colder water lakes in the Brainerd, Bemidji areas, where that effect is actually increasing because we're seeing more nutrients coming into those lakes. And there's more eutrophication, which means more algae that are dying and sinking to the bottom, where that oxygen then becomes used up. And again, that area where those fish can inhabit, that shrinks or in some cases becomes eliminated. So those are changes we're seeing.